At 1 p.m. every day is our Central Indiana Scoreboard Show, which features the Pacers, Colts, IU, Purdue, the Fever, IndyCar, all Central Indiana sports, including all the high schools and colleges in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties. Again, 1 p.m. every day. Please join us. You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report podcast number 251.3, the Colts Report with Eli Edwards. This week with guest Grant Shouse. Eli, Grant, and I talk about the Colts draft and obligatorily discuss the Shadeur Sanders slide down the draft.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengels.
With the 14th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State.
Welcome, Colts fans, to the Colts Report with Eli Edwards. I have Eli on the phone with me here at Stage 22 with Grant Shouse, and we are here to talk a little Colts draft. And it was a very interesting weekend for the Colts. Of course, drafted Tyler Warren in the first round with the 14th overall pick, tight end out of Penn State. Then I'm told maybe I might have to have Grant say it again. Ohio State defensive end JT
Tuiamaloau.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
Minnesota quarterback Justin Wally in the third round. Iowa State tackle Jalen Travis in the fourth. I like running backs in the fifth round. Running back Kansas State DJ Giddens. Riley Leonard, a quarterback from Notre Dame, great athlete who can't throw. Defensive lineman Tim Smith from Alabama in the sixth round. And linebacker Wisconsin Hunter Waller in the seventh round. Of course, if they come from Wisconsin, you know they're tough. So, Eli, first of all, you are a college football player at Ball State. Have you played against or know anybody who was drafted over the weekend?
Yeah, that guy that went first overall, Cam Ward. He's a pretty good guy. We got to see him destroy
That's right.
Ball State Cardinals. Yeah, that was an ugly one. That guy's pretty dang good.
Were the overall number one pick?
He made light work of us, so I don't really know what else he could have done to earn that. So, yeah, I think so, based off what I saw.
All right, Eli, I just went over the entire Colts draft. What are your overall feelings?
I feel like they crushed it. Honestly, I do. I think we got our boy Tyler Warren. Every Colts fan.
They definitely crushed
the
first round for sure.
I think what was so great about them getting Warren is that the Colts were destined to take a tight end, and he was the one that just fell into their lap. I think if he had been drafted in Loveland's spot, they probably would have drafted Loveland instead. I think they were going to get a tight end either way, but I like the theme of going with the Big Ten in this draft. It seriously shows like who in the upper management in the front office for these teams watched college football. Who they paid attention to most. They paid attention to the Big Ten, or because obviously they're taking these guys, and it also has to go with what they did in the combine. This kind of things also play a factor, but not only the Big Ten, but mostly the Midwest stuck with guys.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little interesting. But Warren, Tyler Warren, I couldn't imagine a better pick for the Colts in the first round. Really, probably one of their better first round draft picks, I think, in a long time.
Yeah, that's also a pick. I think almost every Colts fan. There's not very many times they draft a guy and everybody. It's the guy that they wanted. So
I can't remember the
I
last
think
time that happened. I mean, even when
Maybe Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck, yes, but when even Peyton Manning, there were a lot of fans who wanted Ryan Leaf, in fact, and I wanted Andre Wadsworth from Florida State, the defensive end, because I thought he was a difference maker, and man, was I wrong. Eli, you and I have been talking about it for weeks. Ty Warren was the guy. Um, Luckily, he just fell right to him. They didn't even have to go up and get him. But overall, the other draft picks as well. You got a grade. What do you think? A? Did you give him an A, or was that just your first round grade?
I think I'd give him an A or A minus for the whole draft. First round, I give him an A plus. That's perfect. Tyler Warren is perfect. Perfect pick for them. I think it'll also be hilarious um, with the Bears taking Loveland instead. I think that'd be classic Bears fashion if he ends up not being very good. I think that'd be hilarious.
It would
But
be hilarious. That's exactly what's going to happen, probably too, if history dictates.
moving on to JT. I don't remember how you guys said to pronounce his last name, but with the Colts' current defensive end situation, I think this guy will probably end up being a starter,
Yeah.
or at least he'll definitely. So I think that's also a great pick. He's got some pretty good film. 6'5" guy, pretty big, 270. So he looked like he's pretty darn good player, man. I mean, that's one of the positions we also talked about them needing was an edge rusher, and
Yeah. The only problem I have with
second.
that, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, is I have zero faith in Chris Ballard's judgment of defensive ends. And he's taken in the last couple of years Quiddy Pay in the first round, Samson Ekubom in the second round. He has not done well with defensive ends. Pass rushers, of course, last year. I'm not going to pass judgment yet on him, on Latu, because yeah,
Latu.
it's just too early to pass judgment on him. But I just don't trust his judgment. But they definitely needed a defensive end. The only thing is I'll say is I cannot believe they didn't pick a linebacker somewhere in this draft.
Yeah, I
They
agree. I
did.
was just thinking that.
7th round pick.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, okay.
One of the things with JT Tuioma, that's how I'm saying it. But
That's what it looks like.
yeah, he obviously plays on that stacked Ohio State team. They just won the national championship. You see the guys he was paired up with on that defense, like Jack Sawyer, who was a draft pick, I believe. He hadn't have gotten drafted. And he was kind of the star of that defense. He was the Ohio kid that came to Ohio State and all that. And JT Tuiomala was, obviously that big guy that able to just bully offensive linemen. And the thing is with JT is what stood out to me was later in the year when they were playing Indiana. I mean, that was really the first Ohio State game where I actually paid attention. They were playing my team, I guess. And so Indiana's O line by then was banged up, and he absolutely bullied them around. And he got to Curtis Rourke, and he got through these offensive linemen at Indiana, and he was a big difference maker in that game. And of course, college is different from the NFL, but I think that I think his game will translate over. And just like Eli said, he's got good film. I mean, just watch any game. I mean, it's not just the Indiana game he was doing. He was doing that in every game, even the embarrassing Michigan loss. I mean, it, it's just I think if you get guys like him who can do it on a consistent basis, there'll be guys that can turn into really good players. And playing on a defensive line with Quiddy Pay and guys like that, I think that even Leatu Latu, who I think had an underwhelming first year, an underwhelming rookie season. I don't think that's going to happen with this guy. I actually think he has probably a better future than maybe Leatu Latu or guys like younger guys like that on that roster.
Yep, definitely agree with that. I think he looks like a much better athlete than some of the last couple of
Yeah.
guys they've drafted in or edge rusher.
And that's really
Yep.
let's just say for a second here that JT is a star and Latu blossoms into a serviceable to good pass rusher. This Colts defense could be pretty darn good. Is it possible that this draft moved them to another level, Eli?
It definitely did fill in a lot of holes that they had. Tight end, edge, and then they had a great free agency which is rare for them. But man, I wish they would have taken a linebacker earlier. Like, what are we doing here? That guy they took in the 7th round is pretty undersized. While he is pretty good, but man, it's like, why wait? In my eyes, in the NFL, I think having a good middle linebacker is probably a little more important than having a good edge rusher. Well, unless the edge rusher is like Myles Garrett or something, but
Right.
good backer, man. I mean, that's the captain of your defense, and I still don't even know who their backer is going to be right now. Is it
You know,
Yep.
According to their depth chart right now, the starting linebackers are Zaire Franklin and Jalen Carlies, with the backups Sagoon Alubi and Cameron McGrone. So they're going to have to do something at linebacker. I can't believe they didn't address that.
Wow. Yeah, that's very peculiar.
Yes,
Jeez.
peculiar is the right word.
I,
Alubi, of course, has had some success with the 49ers, but I don't even know. Carly's was a 5th round draft pick last year. Not good. Not a good situation unless Hunter Wohler is. Again, they're from Wisconsin. I expect him to be tough at least.
yeah, that is true. He's gonna be a fighter, but I don't know how tall is he. He ain't very thick either. They must have
6'2",
something planned because there's no
213.
Yeah.
213. Come on now, boys. What we doing? Gotta get that guy in the bulk.
Maybe they're gonna bulk him up. Yeah, you know a little something about that, don't you?
Sadly, do.
The other thing is if this Justin Wally, and they clearly think that he's worthy of the 80th pick in the draft. He was considered a surprise pick, but if he turns out, that defensive backfield could turn into something special.
Yeah, definitely. With that great free agency, and then this guy too. I like what Grant said about the sticking with the Big Ten. That's 3 in a row, 3 Big Ten guys in a row to start the draft. It's awesome. If you're from the Midwest, at least, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But this guy's definitely. He looks like a smart ball player, a guy who knows, pays attention to what's going on in the game. If you watch some of his film, he's a guy that very scrappy. He'll strip the ball out. He'll punch it out. Does all kinds of stuff. Very good situational awareness. Pretty impressive. Not the biggest guy again,
Undersized
but
again, yeah. Undersized again. Very
yeah,
similar to Kenny Moore.
yes, yeah. Maybe he'll be a good slot corner like that. I think it's a pretty good pick. I mean, it's not very big though, man. That's the biggest
Yes.
thing in my eyes. Just he's kind of small.
But on the other hand, the next pick, and by the way, I love as far as the philosophy, drafting linemen and running backs in the middle of the draft. That seems to be the most value that you get is offensive line and running back because there's so many that are so similar to each other. Of course, there are elite ones and there are ones that get beat all the time, but most of them are pretty similar to each other. So it's always good value here, and they did not go small. Eli in their 4th round draft pick with the 127th pick, Jalen Travis from Iowa State, 6'8", 339 pounds.
Yeah, that's a big boy right there.
Yeah. And also very smart. He played at Princeton before going to Iowa State.
Oh, geez, wow, Ivy
Yeah,
League,
that's right.
dang.
They expect
Yeah,
him to play tackle, and they say he's raw. Probably not going to be able to play right away, but with your 4th round draft pick, that's probably expected. But they hope that he's the eventual successor of Braden Smith, who looks like he's back in the Braden Smith that he was originally.
yeah, I think that's a good pick for them. Colts have gotten a lot better over the years with developing O linemen. You know, they waited till they had officially killed Andrew Luck to decide to figure out a way to develop O-linemen and get him to play good, like they did with Anthony Costanzo. They decided they're like, we're gonna let him suck until Luck dies, and then we're gonna get him good.
That's
So,
right. Yeah.
so hopefully now they've had a pretty good thing going the last couple of years. Had one of the best O-lines in the league a few years ago, and then with some injuries, it kind of fell off a little bit, but it's still
Yeah,
pretty
still
good.
top
So
10, still around the top 10 offensive
yeah,
line.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
So
looks
get
like
a big
they
old
have a lot of faith in their young guys, Gonzalez and Bortolini. I think they have a lot of faith in those guys. It looks like, and then you bring in a guy who's 6'8", 339, who's probably not ready to block NFL defensive players right now. He's going to have to learn with that size how to do that. But if he does at that size, man, he could be a great tackle to have. It's perfect tackle size.
Of course.
If you can if you can become if you can control that size. And then in the fifth round, again, I love this fifth round draft pick, DJ Giddens, running back from Kansas State. This is where you go for your running backs. Somewhere between the second and fifth rounds are where you do this. They've already got a pretty good situation in the backfield, adding a third guy here in Giddens, who, again, when you draft a rookie, this has been the case since I can't even remember how long. Some guys that undrafted free agents sometimes are turn out to be the rookie of the year or seventh or sixth round draft picks. It's just kind of the way it goes. So you never know with fifth round draft picks in the as running backs, and this guy was a Doak Walker Award semifinalist. He averaged 6.6 yards per carry last year. It was the Big 12, so you know pretty good defenses, and rushed for 1,343 yards. So they saw something they liked, and this guy seems like a great pick to me.
Yeah, I think this guy looks like a beast, man. I don't know how he fell so late in the draft. I mean, I don't think he was expected to go higher, but this guy's a dog.
Also had
He's
50 receptions last year. So
yeah, you got multi-talented receiving back and can run the ball. The Colts got a good thing going right now in the backfield. So when JT inevitably gets hurt again, they've got Khalil Herbert in there and this guy now. This is going to be nice. Nice to hopefully hopefully have a run game to rely on when Anthony Richardson is missing open receivers. So I think that's a great pick, like you said. He's going to be a great guy behind their O line. Good guy. I mean, he had 1,000 yards rushing for I think 2 years in a row, over 1,000 yards. 13. Would you say 1370 or something like that?
1343. Yeah.
Like that's pretty good, man. I mean,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with running
exciting.
backs is it's all about taste, and good ones can drop, and I think that's exactly why you target running backs at this point in the draft.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
And then in the sixth round, you can afford to draft depth, and they went after Riley Leonard, a quarterback from Notre Dame, a guy who I spent the whole year wondering why he was playing at Notre Dame, but he is a very good athlete. Sometimes um, franchises see a guy who's a great athlete and they think they can fix something in his throwing because it definitely needed to be fixed from last year. But again, I don't really trust Chris Ballard and his judgment of players, but seems like he had really good priorities in this draft.
You're right. I feel like they just went down the line of these positions that they needed. They're like, okay, got that, got that, got that. And then finally getting to quarterback, they're like, you know what? We don't know. They're probably thinking that they don't have the most secure quarterback spots. So this is my bold prediction here for you guys, and because that's what we do here, right?
That's right.
I think Riley Leonard will be the starter at some point this year. I think Anthony Richardson. They got three quarterbacks. You guys probably like this guy's an idiot. They got
Wow.
three quarterbacks that are kind of similar as far as runners. They can run. Some are a little better than others. You're right. He doesn't have the best arm, but very similar dual threat quarterbacks as far as the passing and the running. And who knows what's going to happen with Daniel Jones? Who knows how AR is going to be? And I mean, I really liked this kid when he was at Notre Dame. I think he's a really good competitor, and he's not going to. I don't think he'll take himself out of the game like Anthony Richardson did after he got out of breath, or whatever happened to him. I don't even know what that
He
was
was out
about.
of breath. That was it.
But
That's what he said.
that's all it was.
That's what he said.
Good Lord,
I
Colts
think
sign me. I won't.
I think the pick with Riley Leonard is an interesting one that I was a little surprised they went with him, but like you said, at this point in the draft, you can afford to take some depth, especially at your quarterback. And with our next pick, Tim Smith, the defensive line, needs some depth there as well. Two important spots on the field you have to have depth in. Honestly, Eli, I don't hate your bold prediction of that Riley Leonard will be the starter. I don't hate that.
We're in big trouble if that's the case.
I think it's because we've seen what that franchise has done over the years. We've seen just some of the I dare I say crap that they've been through. I mean, I was there the game Sam Ellinger got that start against the Commanders. I was there. I was there
Yep.
when Terry McLaurin caught that ball at the 1 yard line and that place went dead silent. I was there when on 4th and 20 the Texans heaved that one in the end zone for the number 1 pick. And just some unbelievable moments and just some bizarre things. And so I think using that would be my example of why it's not so bizarre that Leonard could end up being the starting quarterback. Now he does lack some arm strength, that is true, but this is a guy that does have a championship mentality, a little bit of a championship pedigree at Notre Dame. Not growing up, but being in that system and in that culture, he was the best player at Duke for a long time. And this is a guy that it was a really multi-skilled athlete because he was able to be a really good basketball player. He could have been a college basketball player. When he was at Duke, he used to go and run up and down with the guys on the basketball team and play pickup. He actually they considered offering him a walk-on scholarship for the basketball team at Duke. So I think it's interesting to see where he's going to fit in. I think he'll be your starter preseason. Maybe not preseason, like in a preseason game, he's going to
Oh,
play.
okay.
That's what I meant.
Yes, yes.
He's obviously going to play in a preseason game, which is a preseason game. It doesn't really matter, but that's going to give you some. That's going to give you an idea of what he's going to be able to do. Don't hate the pick. Don't really love the pick, but I think you can look at the bright spots of that. It can be a good thing at some point down the road. If it's if it's developed and managed and coached right, I think that'll be a good pick at some point.
I agree with that for sure.
I think it was a waste of a pick, to be honest. I think but like I said, when a guy's that good of an athlete, you never know if he gets the right quarterback coach, what could happen. But I think that was, and we'll just go to our next topic right now and kind of segue into this because I don't understand if you're going to draft Riley Leonard in the 6th round, why you wouldn't take Shadeur Sanders in the 4th round. I don't understand what happened with this. I do understand that he's arrogant. I understand he's a lot like his dad, who couldn't be off-putting. Um, and I understand him falling to the 3rd round because of that, but I do not understand him falling to the 5th round. So many teams could have used him, and the Colts being one of them. And I just don't understand why they didn't pull the trigger on that. And what happened? What do you think happened, Eli?
In my eyes, this is like one of the biggest draft mysteries of ever. Honestly, I don't know, man. I don't know. The fact I don't unless Greg, you can think of a time where there was a guy that was projected to go top 10, like on pretty much everyone's
No, I've
board
never
that
seen
had
anything
dropped
like
it.
this. Never seen anything close to this. Never.
So
The biggest one I've ever seen was Dan Marino to 28, and that's like a guy who could have gone number 2. Marino was talked about at the
yeah,
number 2 pick at some point, maybe number 4, fall to 28, or Aaron Rodgers who could have gone to 1, I think fell to 26 maybe. But this was from number 2, 2 weeks before the draft to the 5th round, and I was the NFL sending a message of some kind? It makes no sense to me.
Surely there'll be something that comes out here in like a year or something has to be revealed to everybody. Like, what? How did this happen? How? I don't, I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense unless he had to have done something during these draft interviews or what.
He definitely
I don't
did.
know.
He definitely did, but I don't know how it drops him to the fifth freaking round. Makes no
Yeah.
sense. Teams
My
that need
No.
quarterbacks passing him over and over and over.
my thing is when you go walking around calling yourself legendary, and you
I
haven't
get it to the third round, but that I get it.
you and you haven't taken a single snap in an NFL game. College is one thing. On a mediocre college team, that was just kind of a fart in the wind, is all it was. It's a one hit wonder when the national media and all that wanted to make it more than it was. Um, he deserved, I think. I think he deserved. He is cocky. He is arrogant. There's a lot of people like that though
Yeah,
in life, not
including
just in
his father,
football.
who might be the greatest athlete in pro sports history.
I mean, I mean,
He's got
goodness,
genetics, man.
goodness, Eli. There's got to be, without naming names, there's probably guys like that on your football team at Ball State. I mean, they're everywhere. They just think they're the cream of the
Yeah.
crop, and I'm not saying Shador isn't good. He's good.
He's good.
He,
I
he
think he's
he's
good.
good, and I kind of hope he has a decent NFL career. But when you walk around saying the things that you say, do the things that you do, you risk those things happening for you. I don't know why the Colts wouldn't take him. I kind of thought the same thing. When he was still on the board in the fourth round, I'm like, why don't you draft him? Because I'm sitting there thinking you're gonna end up drafting a quarterback anyways at some point. It's just I could just see it. And to not draft Shador Sanders and draft Riley Leonard is different. And
Different.
I think it's because Shador's gonna come in and want to be a starter. Riley Leonard's not going to come in and openly want to be a starter. In his mind, he may want to be a starter, but not openly like, hey, I'm coming in here to be the starter, like Shador's going to be in Cleveland. And they're obviously just not going to try and take that away from Anthony Richardson. They think that could play a factor. And I may not even know what I'm talking about, but I don't.
Well, they've announced it's an open competition for quarterback.
Yeah, but your consensus feeling would be that it would be Anthony Richardson, you would think, right?
I would hope.
You would hope.
Shoot.
That's all I got on
You'd
that.
hope so. There's two things that I'm thinking like might be possibilities. One, I feel like this year's draft, like this is still is not a good excuse, but this year's draft, I feel like there weren't really that many teams that like desperately needed a quarterback, and because there's been so many years of in a row of these teams taking quarterbacks, and they've finally got their guy, or they think they do, like decent enough
Yeah.
for now.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, I guess, but one of the guys on my team was a transfer from Colorado, quarterback,
Oh.
and played behind. So he knows Shador quite a bit, and he was telling us that Shador, like the plays they run at Colorado, are very short, very simple, just one or two word play calls, which is not very usual for your usual
No.
NFL NFL play calls. So I wonder while they're evaluating quarterbacks if they're like, here's this, and he was struggling with that a lot, maybe. Um,
Yeah, but that's something you can learn, and he's smart. He's not a dumb guy. Um, Again, all this stuff makes me understand completely why he fell out of the first two rounds. And again, and with the whole thing with not needing a quarterback, there are franchises that are going to need a quarterback in the next couple of years. The Lions are going to need a quarterback in the next few years. The Raiders are going to need a quarterback. Um, these guys, their guys are getting a little bit older, and I just don't understand how it gets you down to where he fell, except for that maybe they just don't think he's as good as we think he is because if he was as good as we think he is, someone probably would have taken him a little higher.
The good thing about this is for Shadeur, whether you like him or not, he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder, and that's going to be very, very fun to see. I hope. Man, I've never thought this would happen, but biggest draft mystery of all time. Some will be talking about for years, probably. Unless he sucks,
Absolutely.
they'll be like, if he's horrible. Then we're like, oh well,
Well,
they knew something.
everybody
But
knew. Everybody knew. The truth is, there have been a lot of quarterbacks over the years where we ignored the warning signs, like Johnny Manziel and things like that. Maybe those were those. Whoa, that was some kind of dunk. Maybe those are some kind of warning signs were showing up. But I just don't get it. Any team that you feel like, last question, Eli, made themselves like significant contenders just on, I'm not just on the draft, but after the draft, maybe up a level.
I don't know about contenders, but I think the Browns had a pretty dang good draft. You know, whether they've got about 95 quarterbacks to choose from now.
They do
Surely,
indeed.
even though they're cursed with quarterbacks like forever, surely they've got one now out of the 5 they have on
Out
their
of the
or
five.
6. Surely they've got one they can make it work with.
Thanks so much to Eli for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report and talking some Colts, and Grant as well. Grant was actually over at Stage 22 to participate in our new feature, which is the weekend preview, where each week I have a different guest and we talk about what's coming up in Central Indiana sports over the weekend. This week, Grant and I will be talking about the Pacers game 1 against Cleveland, the Fever opening the preseason, IndyCar in Birmingham, and the Grant 4 tournaments in baseball, softball, and track and field. And as the college seasons wind down, we will tell you about the baseball and softball series coming up, the Crossroads League baseball and softball, and everything else going on in Central Indiana. It's a new thing we're trying. I think you're going to like it. Please tune in. Thanks so much for listening. Always appreciate it. If you enjoy the Central Indiana Sports Report and would like to see it continue to grow and thrive, please share these podcasts with your friends and family. We thank you in advance. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.